Scotland, land of glens and lochs, wild terrain, and far-reaching skies. It is spectacular. I'm heading northeast to the heart of the Spey Valley, to the historic home of one of Scotland's oldest families, Gordon Castle. Angus and Zara Gordon-Lennox worked tirelessly to preserve and maintain this beautiful Scottish castle for the future. They have transformed the interiors to offer exclusive hire, as well as offering the all-Scottish experience, some of the best salmon fishing in the world.
I mean, I'm okay at tennis, you know.
It's a bit like riding a bike. You fall off a few times, then all of a sudden, away you go.
And they are growing their own Gordon Castle brand in the magnificent, centuries-old 8-acre walled garden.
We were incredibly naive, I have to say, and thank goodness we were, because we would never have done it. If I knew now, 10 years on, what I knew at the start, I would have gone, you must be joking.
When I married into the British aristocracy, it was the start of a wonderfully exciting journey. But it was also a little daunting. I became a Viscountess, and for an American girl from a small town outside Chicago, that was quite a shock.
I live with my husband Luke, heir to the Earl of Sandwich, and our family at Mapperton House in Dorset.
Living in a place like this is a joy, but also a challenge. And every day we're aware that we're preserving a very special part of Britain's heritage. Mapperton has opened up an extraordinary new world for me, and I can't wait to share it with you all.
So if you love castles and manors and stately homes as much as I do, please join this American Viscountess as I journey into the British countryside in search of some of Britain's finest historic houses. Gordon Castle, once one of Scotland's largest houses, is the family home of the Gordon-Lennoxes, and I cannot wait to find out about its history.
Hello!
Hello, hello. How lovely to see you again.
It's so nice to see you.
It's just brilliant.
Oh, right, and look at, I keep saying I bring the sun, or maybe you brought the sun for me.
You're very lucky. It's not always like this.
Oh,
I don't know.
Although
It's
Angus
always
persuaded
sunny
me
here.
to come and live here by saying it was the sunniest place in Scotland, which is probably true.
It's a relative term, though.
So tell me just a little bit about the history of Gordon Castle.
My forebears built a castle here in 1460 or something, but didn't live here. It was just one of their many houses, and were actually based in Huntly. But when the Huntly Castle started to fall down, about 1690, they moved here and made this their principal residence. But it wasn't big enough for them, even though it was really quite big.
But was this originally built, because to me, as I look at it, it looks like a real fortress. Was it built to defend?
Well, I think the original bit was
The
built
tower
to defend.
around the tower.
Right.
But actually, the fourth Duke of Gordon decided to turn it into a show house. So he extended it enormously, and actually, because it was all rather romantic, he put the battlements on. There weren't really any battlements before and that sort of stuff. But he turned it into an absolutely huge house. And you can only see about a fifth of it now, because my grandfather knocked it all down. So at its heyday, which was from the 1770s until about the 1940s, it was 569 feet long. So it was a huge place. And we're a bit relieved that it's not that big anymore.
Hi, everybody. Some of you have noticed my seemingly boundless energy, likening me to the unstoppable Energizer Bunny. But like everyone else, I have moments when life's stresses become overwhelming, and I need to talk to someone. In today's world filled with challenges, prioritizing mental health is crucial, especially in these uncertain times. And mental well-being deserves the same attention as physical health, yet it's often overlooked. And I've personally felt the impact of daily life, work, relationships, and societal expectations on my mental health. And just as we're dedicated to keeping our bodies healthy through physical exercise, it is equally vital to exercise our mental well-being. That's why I'm thrilled to introduce our paid partnership with BetterHelp. BetterHelp is on a mission to make therapy more affordable and accessible. Their online platform simplifies finding a therapist. Just answer a few questions, and within 48 hours in most cases, you'll be matched with a credentialed therapist. To get started, click the link in my description, betterhelp.com/American Viscountess. This not only supports our channel, but also grants you a 10% discount on your first month of BetterHelp. And it's an opportunity to connect with a therapist and assess its impact on your well-being. Flexible therapy options are available, whether it's a phone call, a video chat, or messaging, whatever makes you most comfortable. You can schedule sessions at a convenient time for you. Just as we spend hours in the gym for our physical health, let's give our minds the same attention. Over 4 million people have chosen BetterHelp to start living healthier, happier lives. And if you think you might benefit from therapy, consider BetterHelp. Click the link in the description, or again, visit betterhelp.com/American Viscountess. As I prioritize my physical health, I'm equally committed to keeping my mental health in top shape throughout my life. Recognizing the importance of both aspects is key to a healthy life. Thank you once again to BetterHelp for supporting this channel. Take care, and remember, seeking support is a strength.
You mentioned Duke of Gordon. Now, where did the dukedom come from? Clearly, obviously, through a member of the royal family, and how did that come about?
No, so the northeast of Scotland was very Gordon-centric. And my history is probably not good enough to tell you exactly how it began.
Right.
But he was called the Marquess of Huntly, and then one of the Marquesses of Huntly was created the Duke of Gordon.
Okay.
I mean, they had enormous lands in Scotland, about 300,000 acres, of which this was their main residence.
Right.
But the fifth Duke, so the son, who'd had a very good Peninsular War and all sorts of things, he died without issue that he was prepared to talk about.
Okay.
So he left this to his nephew. So
Right.
his sister, the fifth Duke's sister, so this was in 1836, the fifth Duke's sister had married someone called the Duke of Richmond, who lived at a place called Goodwood. Down in Sussex.
Of course.
And his son, the then Duke of Richmond, inherited all 300,000 acres and this place, and they lived part of the year up here and part of the year down at Goodwood.
So this was brought into the Goodwood family.
Yeah.
Got you.
And then roll on a century, effectively.
Right.
And there'd been massive death duties and all that sort of stuff. Roll on a century, and all the Scottish lands were sold in the 1930s and 40s.
Okay.
But my grandfather, who had been brought up here by his grandfather, the Duke of Richmond and Gordon, obviously his cousin had Goodwood at that stage,
Right.
and he approached the people that this had been sold to and said, "I'll take the house off your hands." And at that stage, the house was falling down, had dry rot, where there wasn't dry rot, there was wet rot and all this sort of thing. And he said, "I'll take the house off your hands, I'll give you a little bit of money if you throw in some fishing and a bit of farming." Sadly, not the 300,000 acres that we used to have.
This is really a poignant time in history, because you've mentioned the death duties, and this is something, as historic house homeowners, you really look at that period of what the First and Second World War did.
Oh.
Those who were meant to inherit, some of them were lost at war. Then on top of that, you had the death duties, especially if they never came back from the war, sometimes double death duties, because the Great War and the Second World War were so close together. And that really started that 1950s, where it was the destruction of the country house. Yeah. And you mentioned that this was sort of pulled down.
This was pulled down.
During that period.
So the tower that you can see here was joined up to the whole of this castle, and the whole of this wing, there was exactly the same, the other side of the tower as well.
But the main mansion block was in the middle.
Was in the middle.
But
because his father had been killed at Ypres in the First World War, so that's why his grandfather had brought him up here and at Goodwood.
Right.
Because he had no father.
He had a love affair with this place.
Oh.
he was a career soldier, but when he retired, he came and lived here and converted this wing into a family house.
Right.
Wow. And knocked down the rest.
Where Angus spent a lot of his summer holidays, because his father was also in the army and was also a general. So they travelled around, didn't you, for Germany and Hong Kong and wherever. So this was very much home base.
Right.
And so he spent a lot of
so you've
his
got
childhood
wonderful
years
memories.
I've got
Yes.
wonderful memories.
Yeah.
Yep. No, I mean, you have to love a place like this to even think about taking it on, frankly.
You have
You
to have
really
some
do.
kind of emotion.
You've got to have emotion,
about,
which is actually why we did what we do to the castle. So we had great fun. We did it up to within an inch of its life. And
It
now
wasn't great fun replumbing, rewiring in the middle of the winter, where we could only have site meetings with the builders for 15 minutes in the castle because it was so cold that it was actually 6 degrees warmer outside than it was inside the castle, with no heating, no whatever.
So you've been able to evolve it as a couple into making it, and that's what we have many of us had to do.
Economically viable is
exactly.
the bottom line.
We've got to A, try and make it economically viable, B, it's too big for just two of us. Our children are grown up and living in the south. So what we do is we rent it out to fishing parties and wedding parties and all sorts of corporate entertainment and things like that. But we keep some weeks back. So the week after next, we'll be completely full of all our children and their friends.
Right.
And frankly, that's why we do it.
Right.
But the reality is the roof needs to stay on.
Yes.
We've got to pay the people that look after the gardens. We've got to pay the groundsmen and all that sort of stuff.
And the upkeep. The maintenance and the upkeep of stonework, of floors, of,
the windows.
I know.
The windows,
everything.
I know. The everything. But it was worth those sort of 15-minute in the freezing cold meetings to replumb, to rewire, to redecorate, to get the furniture so that you've made it. Yeah,
but
which
also
is great.
it's really important that these houses are lived in. That's what gives it its uniqueness,
Yes.
is the fact that it's full of, laughing teenagers or tiny children, or I've got granddaughters now who are coming up and learning how to fish and running around the castle, and it's really exciting. And then for sort of paying guests, it's of giving them a taste of being really beautifully looked after in a really beautiful surroundings. And they can take those memories away with them as well. And we love seeing that. We love seeing people enjoy the castle as much as we do.
Fantastic. Brilliant. So should we head in?
Yeah, well, why don't we go this way?
Okay.
Come on in.
Wow. Wonderful. Wonderful.
All my old relics.
So where I'm walking in right now would have been
Well, in the old castle, this was actually a kitchen. And where they would have been eating is about 100 yards away. So can you imagine how cold the food would have been?
Yeah.
But my grandfather remembers riding a bicycle on the thing above here, from one end to the other. So it was extraordinary.
You've converted that
actually my grandparents converted it into a hall.
Into the hall.
Yeah.
And they put this staircase back in because the staircases had all collapsed.
This is rather a grand room, and the reason it's a grand room is that with these pillars, etc., is that this was the Dowager Duchess's apartment here.
I mean, it looks properly done up. This is the two of you, is that right?
Yeah.
Wow. And then dotted around.
So that is the 5th Duke of Gordon.
So that's the 5th, and he didn't have any heirs, is that right?
He had no heirs. He was a general. He helped raise the Gordon Highlanders together with his dad and his mother, actually, who's called Jean, Duchess of Gordon. And then the next one is my great-great-grandfather, who's the 7th Duke of Richmond and Gordon by that stage.
Okay.
And this place was absolutely in its heyday when he was alive. And then this is my grandfather,
right,
who also had a good war.
General Sir Geordie Gordon.
General Sir Geordie.
So he's the one that's
he's the one that brought it back.
Yes.
Changed it.
Yes.
Lived here, and
he wasn't a wealthy man because he was just a career soldier. So when he knocked down all of that part of the castle, he actually sold the stone.
No, he sold the lead off the roof.
And the lead off the roof, which then put the roof back on this part of the castle.
Yeah.
Clever.
And built the staircases back.
Staircases.
But it's quite fun. He has always had a very beady stare. And sometimes when you're out there in the garden, you can see through all the way through. And he's always watching me.
Just making sure you're doing it, you know, he saved it and now you've got to continue.
Exactly.
And so the 5th Duke is there, and you mentioned his father, and that's the one that you mentioned earlier as well, that he's the one that sort of built the Gordon Castle into the show castle.
Exactly. It's really important in those days to have 365 windows. So
Well, it was keeping up with the Joneses, wasn't
Keeping up
it?
with
It
the
was
Joneses.
everyone in the south was extending their houses massively, and I think we're very grateful because it means that the windows are huge. They're not from the tiny keep and castle from a typical Scottish built to defend with tiny slit windows for your arrows. That part was around the tower, but when he extended, we got this wonderful light, these huge big windows, lovely big ceilings.
flat walls.
Fantastic. Oh, this is lovely. Absolutely lovely. So
And a lot of Scottish houses had these entertaining rooms upstairs, but it is also why we do have a bit of an odd layout in the castle, because it was the kitchen downstairs. So to try and get it up to how people live today is, you know, means that we've got some bedrooms downstairs, some bedrooms upstairs.
Right, so commercially speaking, if I were to come here as a guest, I can hire out, rent out.
We don't rent out rooms, so this is not a hotel.
Right,
you take the whole house.
That's what I mean.
So we want people to feel that they are genuinely living here.
At home.
At home for their week. So it's fully staffed and fully catered. It's quite high end. So again, during the estate, we try to cater for everybody. So if you want to be beautifully looked after with a butler, with a chef, with people making your beds, then you can stay in the castle. If you want to do self-catering, you can take one of our wonderful cottages dotted around the estate.
One of those cottages, which we did up last year, is called Kennel's Lodge, and that's where the original Gordon setters were bred.
Tell me about this. So that really does come from your family
Well,
name.
it does.
But they are mad dogs. So the Duke said when he bred them, he said he wouldn't take them shooting until they were at least 3 or 4 years old because they were a bit scatty and they weren't trustworthy on the moor.
We're
So
forever
they
being
need
asked,
a lot of
we're
exercise.
forever being asked as why we haven't got a Gordon setter.
I was just about to ask you that.
We will one day.
I'm absolutely planning it now. We're just about to hire a new gamekeeper.
Right.
And he is going to be the lucky recipient of a Gordon setter puppy.
Fantastic. Now, the walled garden. As I'm in here, where is that in relation to straight on?
So it's about a quarter of a mile that way.
Okay. Oh, wow. So it's a nice, good
Yeah.
jaunt.
But there was, so what we can see now is the garden that Angus's grandmother laid out to be in the front of this house.
Okay.
Originally, everything was focused on the tower because that was the centre of the castle.
Right.
So there was an incredible path called the Broad Walk, which led you up to the walled garden. And the reason the walled garden was so big was because obviously back in the day, it was like feeding a village. So you might have invited, you know, your 12 friends to come and stay, but they didn't just come 12 friends like we do now. They bought their butler, their maid, their housemaid, the stable boy, someone to look after the coaches. So the downstairs, like in Downton Abbey, the downstairs was actually probably bigger than the people upstairs by some considerable margin. So the reason that the walled garden was so large was because it was feeding a huge amount of people. Right. And so the path to the walled garden was focused on the tower.
So can we head up there and have a look? Because that is really something I want to talk to you both about.
The historic walled garden at Gordon Castle is one of the oldest and largest kitchen gardens in Britain. Its renewal and redesign is Zara and Angus's inspiring vision to help secure the future of this stunning home and estate.
Okay, I'm actually speechless right now. This is like everything I could have ever dreamed of for a walled garden. Plus, you are Garden of the Year 2021 Historic Houses, is that right?
That
the
is
year
correct.
after Matt Britton.
Yes.
Yeah.
The year after you showed us you showed us the way.
Yeah, it was very special.
Oh, but I can see why. Now, talk to me about this, because this really is a labor of love and your big project here at Gordon Castle, is that right?
Well, it's one of many projects, but it's certainly the biggest. And I think that, and we just decided it was just a field mown for grass. And we decided that it should be the backstory to all our products. And in order to make it the backstory, we thought we'd better make it look pretty amazing. And to be honest, my rather amazing wife has been the one that's mostly done it. And you're completely right, a labour of love, mostly her labour.
I think we both felt, even when it was a grass field, that it was a magical space.
Yes.
And Angus's dream was, right, let's create products that we can have shelf life, that can have added value, that we can get to centres of population, whether that be Edinburgh, London, New York, you know, globally. I mean, hopefully start nationally, but then go globally, to create some kind of income that would then support the garden. So having this...
And the rest of the estate.
Yeah, and the estate, exactly.
So having these products, he was very keen on the gin. I'm a non-drinker, so that was very much his baby. So he wanted to grow botanicals in the garden to flavour our gin. And I wanted to do a bath and body range of products because I thought we could grow herbs and essential oils and have wonderful fragrances to naturally fragrance our bath and body products. So that's how it started. And then it kind of morphed into a bit of a monster in that we thought, oh gosh, well, if we're doing this, we shouldn't just grow it as a market garden, which Angus's grandmother had done and grown raspberries in here. We should actually make it beautiful. So then we asked, I mean, as you can see on a day like today, it is a magical space.
So the thought about making it beautiful was that it might attract, if we got a big name, we might attract more people to come and visit it and pay the entrance fee and things like that. Well, I interviewed 4 quite famous garden designers, and one of them thought we were mad, and that was the one that was probably right. And one of them
she said it would never work, it would be way too expensive, ridiculous to even think about it.
One of them wanted to put buildings everywhere, and I said, look, we've got a limited budget, we can't put buildings everywhere. Yeah. One of them wanted to turn it back into the original Victorian Edwardian garden.
Right.
And the 4th one was Arnie Maynard. So I realised suddenly that actually not only was he a rather inspirational designer, but he was a really keen kitchen gardener.
But also we decided that, I mean, can you imagine, you're faced with 8 acres, a completely blank canvas, and I'm not a trained horticulturalist, so I would have probably done, you know, a little bit here and then a little bit there, and by, you know, 10 years later it would have looked a complete mess. So we couldn't afford to have someone build a sort of instant Chelsea garden, but we did want to have a template, a master plan to work to. So we knew that we couldn't afford to buy very mature trees. Everything was going to have to be a tiny plug plant because, you know, the lavender, we needed 3,000 lavender plants. So we had to buy them as tiny plug plants because that was all we could afford. So we knew it was going to take between 5 and 10 years for the garden to be built, just doing the hard landscaping. I mean,
which we still haven't finished.
We've laid 48,000 bricks just to do the edges of the paths.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that number?
So 48,000 bricks just to do the edges.
So there's 2.5 kilometres of path within this garden. So
2.5 kilometres of path. But do you feel a great sense of walking through here now, this great sense of satisfaction? I know it's really hard work, and from what I've been sort of told as I've been walking around is you are sort of on your hands and knees in the dirt.
I do count myself as a gardener.
Yes.
You know, I am part of the gardening team.
Yes.
And if I'm not here, you know, 40 hours a week less weeding is massive. So yeah, I do count myself as a gardener. And what's interesting is when you're working in the garden every day, all you see is the stuff you haven't quite finished or you need to change or you haven't done all the weeding or the mess or the whatever. Whereas when people like you come and we have to dig out some old photographs of what it was like as a grass field, that's probably the only times that I really think, wow, it does look like a garden. So for years and years, you know, one tiny square looked a bit like a garden, but the whole rest of it was a mound of earth, diggers, you know, it looked like a building site.
And now, it is a haven for insects and butterflies and the most tranquil of places to spend a glorious Scottish summer afternoon. What a spellbinding transformation.
I just want to jump in to this, all of this, and taste it all. So explain to me,
So this is one of our vegetable beds. So basically the design is that we have 4 big vegetable beds on the corners of the central part of the garden.
Okay.
This is our brassica bed this year. So you can see wonderful kale, purple sprouting broccoli. We've got various different types of kale, cauliflower, every vegetable you could possibly imagine really, but also a lot of companion planting. So we've got this wonderful tagetes, we do this white alyssum here, and it's edged with this catmint, it's Nepeta, Persian blue around the edges, which has sadly just gone over before you've arrived, but it was very vibrant blue. It attracts hundreds of bees. So it's all about, you know, sustainable gardening. We don't use sprays, we don't use pesticides on the fruit, and all of this, which would have originally gone to the castle to feed all of those people, now goes to the cafe.
So this is lush, this is green, I want to eat it all. It's ready to be, you know, thrown into something and made into a recipe. But the season, now here I am in Scotland, I'm quite far up north.
Very far up north. I mean, we're lucky here, we're close to the Moray coast, so we don't have those really harsh winters that up the mountains you would have. I mean, we do get snow and we certainly get frost, but it's nothing like as bad as it in the Highlands themselves. So we have a pretty sort of mild climate. We have the wind, that's our worst thing for, you know, people come to the wall garden and think, oh, you've got the huge 15-foot walls all around the garden, it must protect it. Well, as you can see now, you stand in the middle of the garden and there's no protection. Close to the walls, there is obviously a big difference.
But that's why we've planted quite a lot of hedges, but they haven't grown yet.
Yeah,
but when they do, and we've got a bit of height
shelter belts and things, you know, we do need that protection. But again, we have this extraordinarily long daylight hours. So although, you know, people have got their sweet peas blooming in May and we don't have that because we've only just started our growing season, come June, July, when we've got, you know, 12 plus hours of daylight, suddenly all of our plants, you know, just keep growing in the night, basically.
Right. June it's 22 hours of daylight.
Yeah. So, you know, that's extraordinary. So our growing season is really quite short and quite intense. But we can still be picking sweet peas and flowers in October because we haven't had a frost yet, when everyone else's is over in July, August.
That's right.
So, you know, there is pluses and minuses.
I mean, I feel like I could spend weeks here.
Well, we'd love to have you.
Yeah, bring your gardening gloves.
Yes, well, I might have to learn a few things from Zara, that's for sure.
Come down.
Okay.
So these are all our cut flower beds, and as you can see, they're colour themed. So we have 2 on this side of the garden and 2 on the other side. They've all got wonderful, rather romantic names. So this is Icy Glen, and we've got Scotch Thistle and Glowing Heather and Golden Peat. So, but this is sort of whites, yellows and greens, and with a sort of touch of lavender and these wonderful rows of sweet peas. So I love sweet peas. We grow a row in each of the cut flower beds because I love the scent so much. You know, we are trying to be more sustainable in our garden in the same way everyone's trying to be more sustainable. So we grow these flowers, we try to sell them to local florists. We make up bunches weekly here and we sell bunches of flowers here.
So really, as I'm walking around this garden, this amazing garden, you're using all parts of it, not just for food production and in the cafe, but as you just mentioned, for your guests, for the weddings, for you know, people to come in and make bouquets and
And this is a pretty important part of the garden because it's lavender, and lavender goes into our gin. We distill essential oils from the lavender, and it goes into our bath and body products. And it's it's not just us that enjoys it. As you can see, the bees enjoy it as well.
So, and the noise from the bees as the lavender's just slightly gone over as well. But you know, a week ago it was just humming with bees, and we need our pollinators. We've got 5 hives the other side of the wall there, but we make our own honey. You know, so everything in the garden is trying to be as natural, as sustainable, and as beautiful as we can possibly make it.
But can I just ask you both this question, because this is a big project? Walking around, you make it sound like it's so simple, like you knew to put the lavender and then it was going to go into products in the shop. And
but we were incredibly naive, I have to say, and thank goodness we were, because we would never have done it. If I knew now, 10 years on, what I knew at the start, I would have gone, you must be joking.
I don't think it was
No
brilliant,
way.
so I think it was stupidity, actually.
Right, and sometimes that works, and clearly it has. It absolutely has. But you mentioned something, Angus, about this Gordon Castle brand, and that's what I want to touch on right now because I think it's really fascinating. When I look at historic houses and how they've really evolved, if you think about it, after the Second World War, we started to open up our houses to the public, right? And that was just bringing in visitor income. And then you started to look at what other historic houses were doing. Oh, we're going to have weddings now, right? So the law changed and we could have weddings there. And then we're starting to have events or we're having festivals. But you guys have really gone over and above and beyond that in creating a brand so that if I'm coming to visit Gordon Castle, I'm not just going to walk away with the tea towel, right? The standard tea towel. I can walk away with the scent that I've just been,
whether
taking
that's
in.
a beautiful scented candle or whether that's some aromatherapy oils or whether that's, flowers.
Or the gin.
Yeah, or the gin,
Yeah.
So the whole idea is that all these estates, wonderful though they are, and lucky we are to look after them.
They're money pits.
They are money pits to a certain extent, but also they're finite. So you can only have so many visitors. You can only sell so many potatoes or fishing on the river or
That's right.
or bedrooms in a holiday cottage. Whereas the whole idea of the products is that we use a small amount of
scale
very
it up.
essential,
Yes.
and you can scale it up and it becomes infinite. And global domination follows shortly thereafter.
Yeah, I wish. 100%. I think you're definitely onto something here, and I think global domination will absolutely happen, no doubt.
As I explored, head gardener Ed Ballum was hard at work. But I couldn't help interrupt and ask about the changes to the garden.
Ed, you've been here since the beginning, the vision of this.
Yes.
And you've really seen this come to life, haven't you?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, there was very little here when I started. So some of the groundwork had been done, but very little planting. It was really a building site.
Right.
So it's turned from a building site into what feels like a fairly mature garden.
Yes.
I think at the beginning of the project, we were thinking maybe it was going to take us 5 years to complete the garden, and we're almost 10 years in now, and we're not finished yet. But that's mainly because we're such a small team. So we have just 4 gardeners.
Right, that
we
is
do
small.
all the work ourselves. So everything from obviously all the planting, but all the building work as well, all the construction, every brick that's in the garden we've laid, every archway, every post and rail. So it's slow going, but it means we really know the garden. We can make tweaks to the design as we go along.
Yes.
So it's kind of grown kind of more organically than we expected. But
And this is hands-on, a lot
it's a
of hard
working
work. Yes.
garden. And that's the most challenging part of my job, is getting the balance between the garden looking great for 10,000 or so visitors and also getting a huge amount of produce out the garden.
Right.
And that's really difficult, you know.
Yes. You're creating the produce, you are having to really get your hands dirty, and there's so many different elements, but
That's
how
right.
fun.
It's fantastic.
You know that
yeah.
saying that projects keep you young?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure about that, but it certainly keeps me engaged and excited, you know.
Thank you so much.
No problem at all.
Because you're very busy, so
Yeah.
you took time out for me, and I really, really appreciate
That's
it.
fine. Thank you very much.
After walking all 8 acres of the garden, time for some retail therapy with Zara.
Zara, I do love a good shop, but I think
Don't
yours
we
is
all?
extra special, isn't it?
Well, I think ours is a little bit more unique in that we've got so many of our very own products. We're not just buying in. I mean, obviously we do have a few of those, but most of our products do come with something emanating from the garden or something from the estate. So we do use our estate tweed on some of the notebooks and that kind of thing, but especially our bath and body range that you can see here, which is all fragrance with natural essential oils, which are taken from the garden. So
Where do I start?
well, why don't you try some of
Okay.
our hand creams? So this
Okay.
is got some of the lavender that you saw earlier.
Okay.
Why don't you try a little bit of that? I've put some on my hands, and it does smell
Oh,
and I think you can tell it does have a sort of that natural smell from it. It doesn't smell like a sort of natural, unnatural fragrance.
Oh my goodness. No, it doesn't. It smells fresh.
Yeah, so that's the flower garden range, which is quite girly, it's quite floral. And then we have a more sort of unisex range, which is the orangery, which is sort of more citrusy and sort of orangey and lime. So you could probably smell one of these candles. So you get that smell from the orangery candle and that.
But what is just absolutely astonishing is that it's not just for your shop here. This is a bigger scale. You're going hotels, you're doing Airbnbs.
This has been really fascinating because this has been a steep learning curve for us as well. Neither Angus or I were in the branding business, or, what type of lid did you want, or what type of, our logo obviously came from actually an old prayer book. So this G we found on an old prayer book. And then by fate, we were looking for some stone for the children's play area. And we went to the rubble of stone that Angus's grandfather had knocked down. And we found this wonderful G engraved on a piece of stone. So we thought, well, it's fate, that's going to be our logo. So
it's a beautiful
logo.
Thank you, Zara. This is incredible.
And I'll love showing you around the garden. So
sure, I'll be stocking up.
Come back again soon.
I will.
The River Spey weaves its way through the Gordon Castle estate, boasting beautiful wooded landscape and some of the best salmon fishing in the world. So obviously, I couldn't help but get the waders on.
Now you told me to wear glasses, so I'm wearing just like normal glasses.
So we're going to go fishing with a fly, and on the end of the fly are two very sharp hooks, which is why you're wearing a hat and glasses, because people who haven't done it a lot, especially when there's a bit of a wind, can end up with a fly in the eye. So we want to avoid that.
Okay.
So if you put those on, and I'll get some boots ready for you.
Oh my gosh, so fun.
Now you need to get these on.
Okay. Wow, this is quite a kit. It's like I'm going on the moon. And this is the River Spey, right?
This is the River Spey.
This is famous, isn't it?
It's A, famous, and B, we're lucky enough to be on quite a famous bit of it.
It's fantastic. Oh, okay.
You put it on like a coat,
okay,
like
yes.
that.
Okay,
exactly.
okay. All right. Thanks, Angus. It's fantastic.
And then do it up the front.
Yep.
And you're all set to go, I think. Right, come on then, Julie, let's go and find Lewis, and he's going to show you the ropes. This is Julie Lewis. This is Lewis, one of our gillies.
Nice to meet you. Oh my goodness. So I've only done this once before.
Yep.
And I was taught to do like tick, tock, tick, tock.
We'll get you taught the right way.
Okay.
There we are.
Okay. So this is the beat here, right?
This is our beat, yes. This is one of my main pools called Alt Darg, named after the burn that comes down there. Alt Darg translates in Gaelic as red burn. Guess where they got the red from?
Love that. There you go. That's
yeah, we're going to have a quick go down here.
Okay. So that is not a TikTok, is that?
No. So this is a bit longer rod than what you'd have probably used before. This is 15 foot in total.
Okay.
So you'd have probably been taught your overhead cast, which you say is that TikTok. The Spey cast here was developed on this river because of the high banks and the trees, as you can see on the other side, to allow us to be able to fish alongside here without getting caught up, which just gets boring and you're stuck in the bank every other cast.
So that's the reason.
So with a Spey cast, we lift up, we twist round nice and slowly, line drops into the water here, and then we flicker forward.
Okay.
So yeah, no point.
Do it a couple more times for me. And then what happens?
Then
wait.
We sit back and let the river do its thing. It's fishing.
Okay.
As she comes through off the side of that foam line, you can see it on the water there.
Yeah.
That's kind of where we're looking for fish.
Ah, where the foam line is. Okay.
Yeah. So would you like to have a go?
Okay.
So right hand on the top, left hand down below the reel there.
Okay.
Start with the rod pointing down towards the water a bit.
And then I go up.
A nice gentle lift up. Swinging round to the right. And a push forward.
Okay.
So yeah, a little bit quicker on the twist.
Okay, let's just fix that. So I just gotta like do it.
Yes.
Okay, going down, not be afraid. Okay, go up. Okay.
Nearly.
I just want to get one right. That's all I want to do is try to get one right.
Left.
Okay, but what happened there? I felt that was good.
So that was all right. Just final delivery, you're cutting under a little bit. We need to come over.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
It's a bit like golf.
How many? Yeah.
It looks nice and easy.
I'm terrible at golf. How many years have you been doing this, Lewis?
So I've been here now for 9 years.
Right.
Yeah.
But you just
and
grew
so
up.
I grew up fishing on the river. Yeah. Every fish is different.
Oh.
Steady. We just got that one on there.
I'm fired. I'm fired, everybody. Lewis is going to fire me. Oh my gosh. I mean, do you have to have like good hand-eye coordination? Does this mean I don't have good hand-eye coordination?
No, not at all. No, it's just.
I think it does.
It's.
I mean, I'm okay at tennis.
No, we'll get it.
You know.
It's a bit like riding a bike. You fall off a few times, then all of a sudden, away you go. That's it.
Okay, I'm gonna try one more time, Lewis, and then I just might have to throw in the towel.
All right.
Okay, tell me when.
Yeah, cast and nail.
Oh, that was better.
That was better.
What happened there?
So there, we were a little bit more in the air, but that was almost going towards your TikTok casting that we were doing. But
okay,
flies in the water. We've got every chance.
Okay, the fly is in the water.
Yeah.
That
So
okay.
We'll take that.
I'm gonna take that and get a fish
Definitely.
right now. I'm so lucky to be able to film at glorious historic houses all across the UK, including this one, Gordon Castle, here in the northeast of Scotland. But it's because of our American Viscountess patrons that we're able to create these wonderful high quality productions. So do consider becoming a patron, because here you'll get all of the episodes ad-free and you'll get early access as well. But there's also American Viscountess merchandise, Christmas cards, and a whole host of other benefits, and a wonderful community of people who love manors, stately homes, castles as much as I do, and probably as much as you do as well. Details down below. Do check it out, patreon.com/American Viscountess.